Good morning, author Rafferty, ASNI. I would like to speak about those two children who were blew to pieces in Warrington. Listening to Colin Parry, the father of one of the children, speaking to McGuinness, nearly made me throw up. Colin Parry knows that McGuinness was head of the group Sinn Féin IRA who planted the no-warning bomb that killed those two innocent children. Yet he is prepared to sit down with this excuse for a human being and then invited him to Warrington, his hometown, to talk about peace. What type of a father is Colin Parry to do that? I'm sure his son would have been rolling over in his grave at the thought of that. My father was shot 5 times in the back by that scum of an organisation, and for me to sit down and talk to them would be an insult to his memory. I would not breathe the same air as that scum. Colin Parry is giving these murderers a platform to brag about what murders they have committed. What Mr. Parry should be doing is taking a case against Sinn Féin IRA. After all, they said they were fighting a war, so those two innocent children were killed in a war, and Sinn Féin IRA are guilty of war crimes and genocide. So Colin Parry, wise up and show your son and his mate, both innocent victims of Sinn Féin IRA, some respect and dignity, as those murderers showed them no mercy in a no-warning bomb. Now, speaking about that corrupt organisation again, the BBC. I have listened for the past 3 days to the BBC talking about asbestos. They must get the stories from the Beano or the Dandy. I don't know who their investigative reporters are talking to, but those reports that they are talking about comes from people with very limited knowledge about asbestos. I listened to the building firm trying to explain about the dangers of asbestos. What a joke. Then you get the shipyard men speaking about the dust all around them. Not once did I hear anyone say anything about the men who unload the asbestos cargo from the large ships in the port of Belfast. These men do, after all, have a name. They are called dockers. I myself worked for 28 years at the docks unloading asbestos so that places like the shipyard and builders' firms could get asbestos. We were the first to handle the deadly cargo with no protection at all, no help from any health authorities or government agencies. Yet when people speak about asbestos, the dockers are never mentioned. We are the forgotten ones. I wonder why. Then you get Kevin McGee of the BBC stating that almost £40 million has been paid out to shipyard workers for compensation due to asbestos. I don't know where Kevin gets his figures from, but the British government paid almost £200 million out to pay workers at the shipyard who contacted an asbestos-related disease, not 40 million as the BBC stated. You have to ask yourself why the British government paid 200 million to shipyard workers and paid not 1 penny towards dockers who unloaded the ships for years so that the shipyard could get the stuff they needed to build ships. Talk about double standards. Then you get that Dr. Todd trying to talk about asbestos. I have never heard so much crap coming from a so-called specialist of over 30 years treating people with asbestos. I run 2 advice centres for ASNI, a Belfast charity, to help people who are suffering from asbestosis. I have at least 5 people who have been seen by this so-called Dr. Todd. They were not happy at all with his diagnosis of their illnesses, so they came to see me. And I am making arrangements to fly them over to see a real specialist in Liverpool who works with my charity, ASNI. There they will get to see a proper doctor and get an honest diagnosis of their sickness, as my experience with these doctors in Belfast is a joke. Half of them wouldn't know how to spell asbestosis, let alone treat a person with it. Speaking about the House talks, once again, I put my name forward to attend the House meeting, as I am a victim of that Sinn Féin IRA sham of a war. But like the 4 times previous I have asked to attend meetings, I have been refused. No explanation is given, yet House is taking time to talk to Sinn Féin IRA, the very scum who murdered my father, and thousands of other innocent men, women and children in their so-called war. He is also meeting the Royal Black Bigots and the Orange Order, who have cost the public purse £28 million for their marches and £50,000 per day, so that the police can sit with them up at the interface at Ardoyne. Why anyone would want to talk to those 2 bigots groups is beyond me. Edmund Poots. After hearing that the Lord Chief Justice and the Attorney General have agreed to let Edmund Poots take his case over to London to be heard, as he has no faith at all in the court system in Belfast. Surely now the Lord Chief Justice and the Attorney General cannot say no to me taking my case over to London on the same grounds that I have no respect for the corrupt legal system here in Belfast, their corrupt lawyers and their corrupt solicitors, and also a corrupt judge who I have found recently in the Belfast courts. I have to travel to London to get a fair deal with my case against the corrupt Belfast Trust and their 7 corrupt doctors. It would be hard for me to find justice here, so therefore I will have to go to London, where courts believe in justice, not corruption. Now, I would like to speak about my father. I have been in contact with the European Court of Human Rights about my father's murder. I want them to look into it. My father's murder was a war crime committed by Sinn Féin IRA, who have admitted that they were at war in Northern Ireland. Not only my father, but also thousands of other innocent victims. Some I have named to the human rights also. I have also reported my father's murder to the Amnesty International, and I am waiting on a meeting with them next week. I have waited almost 40 years for that corrupt RUC PSNI to sort my father's murder out. But how can they sort it out when they, along with Sinn Féin IRA and the FRU, an army unit, are all involved in my father's murder? I will make sure that they will all stand with me before the courts of Europe for war crimes and genocide. And I will also be speaking to the courts in The Hague for war crimes. I have made my father's murder a priority, and I will make sure that no one will escape the rigours of the law. Anyone who has a story to tell me and wishes to air it can call me on my mobile 07715 921137, or I can send a reporter to get your story. And remember, I will tell your story as you tell me. Nothing will be cut out. Watch more of my stories on YouTube, arthurrafferty.com, email arthurrafferty1@gmail.com, YouTube Arthur Rafferty, and Arthur Rafferty Docker. Thank you for watching ASNI TV. I will see you soon. Good morning.